Fall is here. Hear the yell. Back to school, ring the bell. Brand new shoes, walking shoes. Climb the fence, books and pens. I can tell that we are going to be friends. I can tell that we are going to be friends. Kyle Kennington is the Director of Services. During his more than 10 years at Newton Technologies, he's managed more than 40 Justware implementations. Kyle is from Wyoming, and he's married to Marcy. Kyle's also got 4 kids, which might explain why some of his favorite hobbies are outdoors, including four-wheeling and shooting. Ladies and gentlemen, Kyle Kennington.
Ooh, it's hot in here. Good morning. Hey, go ahead and reach under your seats and see if you can find something tucked underneath the seat. Because if you find anything, you're the luckiest person on campus, because I didn't put anything there. And that would be lucky. That would be lucky. Nobody found anything? We might have to create our own luck. These guys are like, that's a dirty trick. 400 plus individuals registered. What an honor and blessing for us to do business with all of you. You know, that blessing comes with a challenge for us as an organization. We have, at any given time, we have dozens and dozens of new customer implementations. Offices are trying to get live. We have sales and marketing projects trying to win new business. We have support staff working with hundreds of admins around the world. And of course, we got a product we're trying to put new and cool features in there for you. It can be overwhelming for us. And we know we're not the only ones. We know in your offices you got massive caseloads. We know you have personnel and resource challenges and limitations and a world that's ever changing. You got new statutes, new elected officials, new technology. It really is the challenge laid before all organizations. How are you going to get these tough projects done? Really challenging projects done. And I want to share with you this morning a little concept that we've used in our organization to build a culture that tears down walls between coworkers and departments and really celebrates activities that bring us together as individuals to get a tough project done. I was first introduced to a similar concept when I joined the military. In 1992, I joined the Wyoming National Guard. Just mentioned I was from Wyoming. Artillery unit. People ask me when they hear I was in the Guard, why did you join, Kyle? And I can't remember. I can't remember why I did that. But I was 18. I don't know if anybody remembers when you're 18. But I like to think that the allure of shooting massive cannons, high explosives, that did it for me. They sent me down to Fort Sill, Oklahoma. I know we got our Oklahoma group in here. For boot camp and then AIT, Advanced Individual Training, learn to shoot these big guns. And I can still see in my mind's eye, you could watch these 100-pound projectiles leave the tube, fly across that open Oklahoma landscape, and hit 5 miles downrange with a big thunder. And it was very exciting for us, and I felt lucky to be a part of it. 5 years later, in 1997, the great state of Wyoming, they decided to trade in their guns for boats and bridges. Sent us back to school. Did I get a yeah for that?
Yeah, right here.
It's not as fun as artillery, just so you know, Lincoln. But the swimming's all right. North Dakota, sent us back to school in North Dakota, Devil's Lake, way up there at the top of the state, to be combat engineers. Now there's some obvious differences between artillery and building bridges. But there's one that wasn't so obvious and out there on the table, and that was a stat they gave us, the statistic they gave us in school. They said, you combat engineers have a life expectancy in combat. And all us artillery guys thought, wow, we never heard of a life expectancy when we were in artillery. Of course, we're 20 miles back. We're perfectly willing to send high explosive overhead. Pretty good gig if you're in the military. I imagine didn't get really the opportunity to do that, but I thought that would be a pretty good gig. Combat engineers, on the other hand, if a bridge is down, you got to get the troops across. That bridge isn't going to Candyland and people aren't waving you on over. So they gave us this life expectancy. And it wasn't in weeks and it wasn't in hours. It wasn't even in minutes. It was in seconds. You got 90 seconds. That's what we expect from you guys. I thought the military lost their minds. You got to get a bridge done in 90 seconds? I hated that number. I still hate that number. Tough project, right? That's the mission. Got to get a bridge done. You're expected 90 seconds to live. Hey, but we're at Devil's Lake. We're getting training. Who's counting? Well, in 2003, I got a phone call from the unit commander. He said, Kyle, got to be here in 2 days. Get your affairs in order. We're going to Iraq. I hated that 90-second number. It became more real for us. So we went down to Fort Polk, Louisiana, mobilized to Fort Polk. Where's our Louisiana people? I know we got some. Yeah, it was a hot place. I went into the doctor. I thought something was wrong. He said, it's just a heat rash. Haven't you seen one of those before? I'm like, oh, I didn't know what that was. Regular Army units were there to validate us, make sure we're ready for deployment. So they were evaluating our equipment, evaluating our performance to see if we could even do our jobs. And they were giving us classes and giving us instruction to prepare us, I believe, mentally for what was to come. And then this concept I alluded to that I learned in the military, they taught it to us several times. They've taught us several systems in the military on how to come together as a group and get some really tough things done, because the military asks you to do some hard things. And some of the systems probably aren't legal for us to do in the private sector. But this system was known as the Battle Buddy system. You're going to war. Please check your buddy. Does he got his Kevlar and his life vest? Does he got his weapon and a gas mask in case of a chemical attack? His life depends upon it. And when you're in training, is he awake in class, paying attention? Is his performance to a standard that's going to save him and you? It's a pretty simple concept, and I liked it, and I appreciated that, and I valued that in the military. One thing I want to add to that we've added to that in our organization, is not only to check your buddies in your projects, but you are obligated as a battle buddy to be checked. You don't get to get mad and be upset that somebody's asking you to see your work and to see if you're at a standard for success. You're obligated to be checked and to check. And that's something we've tried to do at New Dawn and in Sustain, is to be battle buddies and to inspect and expect to be inspected. And that's really how tough projects get done. If at a peer level we can do that and have that culture, that's how really hard things get done. Doesn't matter if you're building a bridge to Baghdad or putting in a new software system into your offices. That's a culture that I know that works. It makes me think of a project, if any of you have studied project management, there was a big project here in the Mountain West in Denver in the 80s. They wanted to build a new airport outside of town. They couldn't expand the old airport, and there was pollution, noise pollution problems, and this was going to solve a lot of problems. And it was a beautiful airport. They'd hired a wonderful architect, and as part of this airport, they were going to put in an automated baggage system. No one's going to touch it. The bags would come in, there was going to be conveyor belts, and the Denver people might remember a lot of these stories. And it was just going to be awesome. Well, 1993 comes, the airport's built. It looks beautiful. If you haven't been there, they made it look like the Rocky Mountains. They didn't have software for the baggage system. It didn't exist. Now, there's been a lot of articles written, a lot of media things. There's been a lot of experts write papers on what went wrong, what could have done better. I mean, there's miles of it. It's really been kind of a, hey, this is how you don't do projects. But I can't help wonder if the boots on the ground, the people putting in the conveyor belts and the barcode readers, and the project managers working on the schedules, and the stakeholders that are writing the checks, had they had a culture of, hey, I better check my buddy. And if those people say, hey, I need to be inspected, I wonder if that would not have been a project for the ages for, we shouldn't be doing this. It makes me wonder. Hey, we have planned a great week for you guys out here. Please don't leave it to chance and don't leave it to luck. Grab your battle buddy. Make sure he or she has everything they need this week to have a good, successful week. Thank you and welcome to Users Conference.